Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. Let's see if we can, excuse me, get this to go live. Here we go on Instagram. Hello, everybody. Come on in, say hi, say hello. Okay, just saw the notification for YouTube. Here's the notification for Instagram. So I know we're live. Say hi, say hello, where you're watching from. Don't forget over on Instagram, I can't see names, I just see handles. So put your name in there if you want to, or where you're watching from. That's awesome as well. We're going to jump in here in just a moment with our guest. But while we're just waiting for a couple people to come in and all the notifications to go out, I do want to share with you guys something really, really awesome that we just launched. So you guys are getting that first sneak peek of the product. And we launched a brand new set of blocking combs. And I know, like, this is not a new thing. Everybody has blocking combs, everything else, but ours are different. Ours are a little bit different here. So they come in this really great plastic case. Sorry, it's always backwards. You get some T-pins in here, and then you get your little blocking combs. And yes, they are on the smaller size. Watch this. They clip together and you can bend them into any shape that you want. So this is really cool for like doing corners. This is really cool for doing shawls and everything else where you might need like an angle or something. You can clip them together as many as you want to make the length that you want, and to kind of make that shape that you want. We're so excited about these. So you have to go check them out. I'll throw a link in here while we're talking. I apologize for my voice today. Um, Somehow I got sick along the way. I'm trying just not to cough, but I sound a little weird. So just, yes, thanks, Chris. I am sick. um, but anyway, I'm so happy to be here and still get to chat with you guys. Yeah, Julia, those are totally awesome. Aren't they great? I'll throw the link in here so you can get them and everything else. Hi, Susan from Tennessee, and Julia is here. Hi, Kathy from Ontario. Um, Man, I think it's getting worse. Hello from Florida. Hi, everybody. The sweater that I'm wearing, this is the Franny Granny collection from Hand Jan Crochet. This was originally the poncho, and then I turned it into the pullover. So that's a really cool thing, too. You can go ahead and check that out. Okay. So before I talk too much and then can't talk at all, let me bring our wonderful guest in today. I have a wonderful, wonderful guest that I'm so excited to share with you guys. We have Dominique today from Namaste and Crochet. Let's bring her in. Hi.
Hello.
It's so wonderful to have you here today and joining us live. We're so excited.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Hello, everybody.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to put a link in here for Dominique's website. And over there, you'll be able to find her Instagram, all of her social stuff, emails, patterns, everything. Go check her out. We're talking about crochet as like high fashion, right? And one of the things we are going to talk about today is she made her own wedding dress. And I know a lot of people aspire to do this, but she did it. It's gorgeous,
Aw.
gorgeous. And I'm just so excited to get to chat with you about that. But let's take a step back. Let's introduce who you are and how you got started in the crochet world.
Great. Well, I'm Dominique. I'm from Los Angeles, and I started crocheting at a very young age. My grandma taught me. I think, a lot of people can relate to that story. But then a few years ago, I started to really kind of rely on crochet as like a form of like meditation and just to like alleviate anxiety. So I just got really into crocheting and making things. And then somehow, I don't quite remember how this happened, but I was like, I'm going to try to make a dress. And then I made a dress, and then I kept making dresses. And now it's like my whole life is making crochet dresses, and it's so fun. And I feel like it's something that I just really naturally fell into without like, I was never like, oh, I'm going to be a crochet designer. It just kind of happened. But I
I
love
love
it.
it. I love it. And, it's just such a different take on it. And whether it's just your style or kind of where you live and it's warm weather, it's a totally different approach to making patterns and garments that you can really wear in that warmer climate, that sometimes we tend to struggle with a little bit, or we don't see as many options for. And I think it's just super amazing. to really give people those options, whether you live in that warmer climate or potentially you're traveling and just want to take something else along. So love it. Um, excuse me. So I do want to call out too that you have done fashion shows before with your garments. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did that come about? How does that feel? Like that crochet is a runway item.
It's so funny that you're asking me this right now because I am like scrambling to put a show together for Friday. So I have I have a lot of feelings about that right now. But it is amazing. I think too because like every single part of the garment, whether like everything, like I made it. Like I was, sitting on my couch and I was going through some emotional thing or whatever, and I was, making this piece, and then to see like all of those moments and like all of those like collective like bursts of like inspiration to be all together on a runway is pretty it's pretty mind-blowing. And what else is really great too is that I think in a lot of ways, like I have a very different experience than all the designers that I also do shows with, because all of their stuff is like cut and sew. It has to be like very exact. They have to do like fittings and advanced and blah, blah, blah. And I can kind of just like roll up with my like, trunk of stuff. And then because crochet is so, it fits to the body, and I designed
Mhm.
for it to fit to like a range of bodies, I can
Yeah,
usually just like put a dress on a girl and it's going to look great, and I don't need to do very much prep for it. So that's a
right.
great advantage to being a crochet designer. And then I think it's fun too because it is different, and because of the way that I design. Like I really love to celebrate women. I love to kind of tell like an interesting story with every piece. So I find that like models are very excited to walk for me, and I also really create an environment, and I cast models for diversity. And so I'm
Mhm.
always very like conscious of having really, of course, beautiful models, but very cool people that are all
Yeah.
different from one another. And I think when you create an environment like that, everybody becomes like very encouraging and very like, it's not like a competitive environment where I think a lot of runways can be kind of like
Mhm.
catty and drama and stuff. I feel like my runways are always very encouraging and everybody just has a great time. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that that's how it goes on Friday.
Yeah. No, that's awesome that you have another show. And I will say too, like, I mean, I've never been to one of your like runway shows, but I watch your Instagram and I see a lot of the photos that you post. And I do really appreciate that you find different body types to be
Yeah.
putting your garments on,
Mhm.
because when you look at the garments that you're creating, it is definitely lacier, it's holier, it has the more open negative spaces that are really playing its strengths. And so women then have to, well, I guess you don't have to, but they tend to wear something underneath it, like
Mhm.
just like a thin silk piece or whatever it might be. And you just don't know what that's going to look like on your body shape.
Mhm.
And it is a lot of work to put the time into it. So I love that you really give that perspective and allow people to kind of see what it's going to look like on different bodies, to envision it on themselves and to empower them to go ahead and make it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like something that we have, I mean, it is such a magical thing that we can make clothes for ourselves, right? I mean, that's such a huge plus in this world to be able to do that. And I'm just a really huge believer in that fashion is for everybody and everybody like, and every body type and form of beauty should be celebrated. I've worked in the fashion industry for a long time as a stylist, and I've kind of seen over the years just how other brands go about, casting their models or kind of their whole mentality around it. And to be honest, I got very sick of like the very typical, we're just going to cast a 6 foot like string bean girl. And of course, we love that girl too. She's beautiful. But I just, when I kind of approached making my own brand, I was like, I really want every body type to be celebrated. And I want people to come to my page and to be able to see somebody that they can relate to. Um, so to me, it's kind of like if I can't have that element, it makes it almost like not pointless, but like that's a huge part of why I do what I do, is to make sure that, there is representation and there is diversity within the fashion world.
I love it. There is a question here about what kind of yarns that you use so that your stitches don't stretch too much since it is very lacy?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a question that I got a lot with my wedding dress too. I always use like a strong cotton. I use a cotton that's just not going to move. Like my dresses don't have any give in them, which can, make them tricky to put on sometimes. But I am confident that if I put a dress on a girl, it doesn't matter if she's got like, she's well endowed with ladies or curves or whatever she's got going on. Like I know that I'm going to get her waist snatched. She's going to be supported and the garment is just not going to move. So I always recommend like a very strong, I usually use around like a worsted type thickness. And I've gotten really into combining different threads. I've actually done with this with the We Crochet threads too, is like, I'll take like a few crochet threads, maybe they're different colors, and I'm going to make my own color. And then I'm going to add in like a metallic thread to it too, to create a yarn or a color that like doesn't exist anywhere else. So if you look at all my pieces that I've designed recently, like there's like, a few different threads that I'm working with that are kind of creating the color and the material. So, but always I'm using cotton pretty much. Yeah.
I love that too, and I love how you incorporate beads into a lot of your different pieces to kinda add some extra sparkle to it and add some extra interest. That is something that you can't do when you're getting it, like, off the rack at a clothing store.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
so there is, like, a comment here saying, "I didn't know crocheting was that big and in style." And it is huge, and the one thing that not the one thing, but one of the things that I appreciate so much about you and bringing crochet into the fashion world is that it is handmade. A lot of times, my mom and I will be out shopping, and I'll be like, "Oh, look, there's something crocheted," and I'll go look, I'll be like, "This is not crocheted. This is, like,
Mhm.
machine made of some sort, but it is not crocheted stitches," and so I really love that you are showing that crochet in itself can be super fashionable, be super wearable, and we can all do it. It doesn't just have to be, like, the big, bulky acrylic blankets that we thought of when our grandparents were doing things, or the clothing that didn't fit anybody and only used single crochet stitches and took forever and just looked big and bulky. Like, there's so much more you can do with it today.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that crochet is definitely having a moment in the fashion world, but I think that and I hear this from stylists all the time because I work with, stylists that will pull my pieces for their clients. And I think that knitwear in general is just really popular. And I think it's always going to be evergreen and people always want great knitwear and they love because they can tell when it's handmade. So yeah, I think it's something that's kind of always going to be in style. And if you adapt your style to the times, maybe you lean into the trends a little bit more or whatever, I think it is kind of like an evergreen thing that people are always going to love handmade knit and crochet wear.
I totally agree, and, I'm also seeing it too show up in fashion where, it might be a regular T-shirt or something, and then it has the sleeves that are now crocheted onto it or things like that. Like, it doesn't even have to all be a crocheted piece, but just tying it in just so many different ways. Like, people are craving this, and I love that, you're doing this runway fashion, but you're also selling the patterns then for things, and so people can go ahead and make it themselves and have it to fit themselves perfectly. I mean, that is one of the beautiful things about making our own garments is that we can get it to fit ourselves and fit the style we want and be that color we want or make our own color, which isn't something that you can easily do when you're working with fabric because you're kind of stuck with what's already made. But like
Mhm.
you said, you can combine different strands together and get a beautiful color that didn't exist before. So I love that.
Yay. Yeah, I really try to like explore the infinite possibilities, right? Like we can underestimate like a chain stitch and a single crochet. Those are like the two most basic stitches, but like the entire line that I'm going to show on Friday, like a lot of the dresses are just made with those two stitches. And I think it's really fun for me to like kind of reimagine the very simple basic tools that we have into something else. And like I always tell people that like my dress patterns actually are very beginner friendly. Like my best-selling one that people wear as a wedding dress all the time is basically made of like granny squares, and there's only a few stitches that you have to know in order to make it. And then throughout the process I tell you like do this to make it fit you here, do this to make it fit you here. And I think it's a lot simpler than we make it in our head. So that's the experience that I really try to share, is like, no, you could take your basic crochet skills and make something for yourself that like you love, that fits you great.
I really love that. And we should say too that yes, you are known for your dresses. Yes, we're talking about your wedding dress. Yes, we're talking about the high fashion aspect of this. And in your shows, it's typically all dresses. But like for instance, the top you're wearing, that's also one of your pieces. You have a lot of different things to offer for people if they're not looking for that like summertime dress or warm weather dress. Like there's all different tops and even skirts that you have that people can enjoy and still have crochet that's fashionable and is not just a single stitch all throughout, which is what we always thought of crocheted clothing in the past was, okay, we're just going to use one stitch and that's it. Like you have combined all these different aspects and it just makes it so gorgeous and gives it that tailored look that we can get from other types of clothing making.
Yay. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I try to design things that like I actually want to wear. Like I love fashion. I love like, going out, having a night out, having an adventure. And I love to imagine like, well, what would I want to be in? Like, who is my character? What story is she telling? So I really design things that I would want to wear and that I want to see my peers wearing. So yeah, any pattern or anything I put out is like, I'm going to make sure that, y'all are looking good.
So, do you have a background in fashion here or like did you go to school for fashion or anything like that or it just became like this passion for you as you kind of got into things?
Well, I grew up as a musician, actually. So I was like a working recording artist from like when I was like little, like 6 years old. And so I was on like sets a lot growing up and on photo shoots and, just around the entertainment industry. And then I started working as a stylist. So I was just, around so much fashion and and then I started to get into styling for weddings. And that was kind of around the time that I started designing clothes. And I think that, in hindsight, like being around all the wedding dresses constantly really informs like what I wanted to make. Because I think it was just kind of like, oh, like they're beautiful. Like, of course you want to kind of aspire to these things. But no, I don't have any training in fashion. And I've been really like, learning as I go
Mhm.
in the fashion world. And it's kind of interesting, like what I've been able to accomplish just by being like authentically myself, because like, there are a lot of people that will contact me from like the Fashion Institute and want to like work with me and learn from me. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about fashion. Like, can you tell me about the industry?
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah, I've been
awesome.
really learning as I go for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this question next. So, if we're either maybe just finding out about you for the first time, or maybe we've been following along and we're ready to make like our first garment that is a little bit more of that high fashion, or just dresses in general, like what are some of the tips or things that we should be thinking about as we go to pick which style is going to work for our bodies? Is it the same type of mentality that like if I know an A line works really well on my body type, I can translate that over to crochet? Or are there different things that I have to think about when I'm trying to pick a garment that I want to make in crochet? Because I obviously can't try it on like before I buy it and then just put it back. Like I'm going to be spending all that time making it.
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think that again, it's kind of like how do you want to feel when you're wearing this dress? And like where do you want to be? Do you want to be somewhere like do you want to be more cozy and casual? Do you want to make a statement? Are you looking for like a bold open lace or do you want something more covered? And then also like in my pattern shop, like there are different kind of silhouettes with the different dresses. So you can like really mix and match depending on your style. Um, but I will say, I think I I get this a lot with people that are kind of like, oh, I don't think I could wear that, or like, I don't have the body for that. And it's like, yes, you do, because crochet is a magical thing. Like when you put that on your body and you tie it to fit you, like I've never seen it not look good. So, it's going to like kind of conform to the body. And then, it's kind of up to you. Like, do you want your arms showing? Do you want, like, what do
Right.
you want to show? What do you want to show off? Um, there's options with like cap sleeves. So I really encourage people to just like really delve into like their style, especially if they're having
Mhm.
doubts about, can I rock this? Like, of course you can. I feel like people are always told, like you can't wear that based on like your body type or your age or whatever. And we just need to throw that all out the window. Like if you want to
Yeah.
wear it, like we're going to make it fit you. If you have a question, you can email me. I'll make sure that you're going to get the right fit. But yeah, I feel like it's just about really exploring your style and being a little bit more like dreamy and idealistic about like, what do you want to experience when you're wearing this and how do you want to feel?
I love that because that's what it's partially about is, how do you feel in the garment that you've created? Like, and one of the things too, like with your dresses, they definitely tend to be more form fitting. I mean, obviously you could kind of play around with the sizes that you're doing, but again, traditionally crochet garments have been like these oversized, not fitting garments. And so it looks like you're wearing a paper bag all the time type of thing. And crochet is really coming into its own with using the more lacier stitches, with using thinner fiber types, like going into the fingering weight and the sport weight yarns. It's really just changing completely. Um,
Mhm.
there is a question. Do you have a book?
I have an ebook. It is 100 different ways to make my Luna dress. The Luna skirt is a really beautiful, like connect as you go motif. And I have given people like 3 different top options, different sleeve options, and then different length options. So within all the combinations, you can make like over 100 dresses. So I do have that available, but I happen around with the idea of making a more like general book about just my experience as a designer or whatever. I mean, I don't know if you guys have a book recommendation. I'm I'm down. I think it would
Yeah.
be cool to share more in that kind of in that kind of a platform.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so before we run out of time here, we do want to take some time to talk about your wedding dress. And we want to know a little bit about like what kind of inspired you to make the wedding dress. And is it something that you're putting a pattern out for? Or like sometimes you hear that like recording artists, they'll make a song for their wedding, but they don't share it with anybody. Kind of what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, so making my dress was interesting because I've already made so many dresses and my, husband has already seen me in so many dresses that, could be considered wedding dresses. So I was kind of like, oh, I have to make something that's really different from anything I've ever made. And yeah, it was kind of a lot of pressure. Like I need to make something that like feels like me and feels like my style, but that I just hasn't been seen in before. So it was quite a long process to figure out what that means. And I was very inspired by the 1920s. That's kind of always been my like, bridal vision for myself is that I would wear something that was 1920s inspired. And then we had a Havana themed wedding dress or wedding theme. So everything was very like tropical and kind of that Havana kind of sexy Latin vibe. So I was kind of like, okay, let me make something that feels tropical, but that also feels like Art Deco 1920s. So that's kind of the sweet spot that I was going for with the design. And then I actually had a lot of help making the dress from my sister-in-law. My husband's sister
Nice.
also happens to be a great crocheter, which
Wow.
is amazing.
That's awesome.
It's only 80% of the reason that we got married. I'm just kidding. I do. I love my sister-in-law so much, but I could not have finished that dress without her. She really helped me design like the back and like the bustle. That was
Mhm.
all her. The bustle was incredible.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as the pattern goes, that's tricky because of course you do want it to be like special for you.
Mhm.
Um, I and also the design was very complicated. Like I know that I
Yeah.
could not remake that dress exactly the same way, even if I wanted to.
Right.
So, maybe in the future there will be like an adaptation or like a simplification of the dress that will be available for a pattern, but I can't imagine that that will happen anytime soon. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everybody that's been asking me for a pattern for that one, but you know, it is like my special dress. So
I think it's okay to keep that for yourself and
yeah.
just enjoy it and not put work with the wedding dress.
Oh
So,
man, yeah.
did your husband see you in it or parts of it while you were working on it?
No, that was actually really like that was really fun to
Yeah.
kind of like hide it from him because it was not a simple making process. Like that thing is heavily beaded. So, you know,
Yeah.
every time I pulled it out to work on it, I was like, you know, my entire dining table was just full of supplies. And so I would just tell him, like, you can't come in like this area of the house.
Nice. Nice.
Or like, you know, we would have to like yell at each other from across the house, like, don't come over here, like whatever.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a task to hide it from him for sure. But it was fun. And then to see
It's
his
worth.
reaction, you know, when I stepped out to walk down the aisle and like to see him immediately like tear up and it was worth it. It was all great.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, we're going to do one more question here. And this question comes from Cindy, and she is wondering your thoughts on size inclusivity in fashion, um, especially related to the crochet garments. She says she notices a lot of designers go up to a 2X and kind of stop there. What are you seeing in the fashion world, crochet fashion, or things like that in general, or even as a designer? What kind of goes through your mind? Because we do know that while certain things stay the same, kind of regardless or very similar, like neck holes don't grow as proportionately as some of the other measurements do, for instance. What are kind of your thoughts on that in the industry?
Well, okay. In like the overarching crochet or fashion industry, I think that there is a new wave, obviously, of like people want diversity and everybody wants it. It's not just, you know, the people that have been feeling left out. I think everybody is craving to see that. And I think that slowly but surely it is happening. So I'm happy about that. My thoughts about it as it pertains to crochet might be kind of controversial because I am just one of those people that I don't like following instructions. And so to follow and even to write a pattern sometimes, it just feels very like limiting to me as far as like the way that my brain works. And I think that, you know, I don't usually like grade out my patterns. Um, I do have a grader that I work with if the pattern really requires it. And I go up to a 5X and then I always make sure to give instructions if you do need more, just, you know, customization. But I really feel like even if like, there's no way that I would ever say like, oh, you can make, you know, this dress in like a medium or in a 2X or whatever, because it doesn't work. Like, even if like you're one measurement on bottom, like that might not be for your top or you know, like the neck hole. Like everybody's body is so different, like different heights affect it. So like it's almost impossible and not even like something that I would do to like exactly size out a pattern. And that's why my patterns are always very like recipe based. And that's because like I want you to get the fit for your body because you're not going to pick, you know, a 1X dress and the whole thing's going to fit you perfectly. That's just
Right.
not realistic. So I really try to make it like step by step, like each part of your body needs to be catered to. And I think people kind of get driven crazy by that with me because I'm kind of like, I'm very like free flowing. It's like, you know, do what you feel. Like if you like this fit, if you don't, like it's up to you. I think that people like to be told what to do a lot of time in the
Right.
crochet knitting kind of scene. Like I feel like it's a very like maybe not so much in the crochet world, but I feel like in the knitting world especially, like people want things to be very exact. They want it to be like, you know, very laid out perfectly, which I totally get, but my brain doesn't work that way and my designs don't work that way. So that's why I'm always just making things like super customizable for
I love that.
everybody to get the fit. So
Yeah, because then it fits you perfectly. So I definitely like that idea too, where just having the options there so you can mix and match and kind of like make your own. uh, I don't know. What are those? Remember those books that you used to like flip and you could like pick eyes and a mouth and a nose
yeah,
and you could
yeah,
like
exactly.
easily pick whatever? Like that's kind of what it is. It's like build your own creation
Yeah.
and based off of your body.
Yes, that's exactly what my Luna dress collection is meant to be. It's like
Love it.
choose your own adventure, but it's gonna fit you.
Love it.
So,
Love
yeah.
it. So if anybody hasn't been following Dominique already, go ahead and use that link. I'm going to throw it in here again. Let me just copy the right one. This is going to take you to her website. And so from there, you can go ahead and you can like, you can follow, you can do all the things. You can see her patterns that she has. If you're on Instagram and not getting the link, this is Namaste and Crochet is where you're going to go and follow all the things. Check out the beautiful wedding dress that she made. It's absolutely stunning. You're all going to love it. So go check it all out. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing about the crochet world and fashion and everything else. It was so wonderful to get to chat with you.
Yeah, it was so wonderful to be here. I'll come back anytime.
Wonderful. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day and week, and hopefully you'll get some stitching time in this week. We'll see you next week. Bye.